Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing some more work on this carbureted small block 355 Subaru Integra here. It's already running, but it's not driving. And that's what I want to do, is get it driving, so I got to put a radiator on the damn thing. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do what I've been talking about in the last couple videos, is cutting the water neck off the radiator and re-welding it on right here so it'll actually run straight into the water pump. So I'm going to get started working on that. But if you guys are new to the channel or you haven't seen the video, I did make my personal best fastest pass on the Ranger. It went 11:01, goal of like getting it in the 10s. It went 11:01, so that's just enough to be insulting. But we're getting there, and I have some ideas and things I want to do to get it over the edge, and it'll probably go farther into the 10s than I was planning on with what I'm thinking might work. So go check that video out, stick around for that. Let's get started on this stuff. We're gonna do some welding today. Hopefully I don't run out of argon. I think I have like a little bit left in the bottle, so that would be a shitty deal to run out of argon when I'm welding on the radiator. So let's not do that. Okay. So what we're gonna be doing here is taking this Mishimoto radiator and replacing it with a different one. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this off. Might cut like this whole chunk out and then move it over, weld it on, and then hole saw out the middle. So the reason I'm doing it is because there's a big hole in the radiator because I had a tire tip over and I made a set of studded ice tires for winter driving for the Ranger on the frozen lake, and it tipped over and one of the screws poked a hole in the radiator. Just a little tiny pinhole, but it was a hole. Tried to do some repairs and they got about 4 minutes into that job and then quit and bought a different one. So we're gonna sacrifice this thing. The idea, like I said, is we want the water neck to come out of there, go straight into the water pump, and I'm gonna try to use this to sacrifice this piece, cut it out, and then probably even do some sacrificial pieces here, cut this out, and then repair this on the new one. So yeah, let's get started. Alright guys, so I got this thing welded on now, and it might leak, I don't know, I'm gonna have to test it, but you can see that weld down there, it's a little shaky because I had to balance it, I had to set it on the ground, and I was actually balancing and holding up the radiator with the same hand I was feeding the rod with. So it was kind of rocking back and forth as I was feeding the rod, but you can see this weld is nice and shiny down here. And then look at on the other side, I did a couple beads there, but over here you can see all this crap and how terrible this is. Like, this was a really hard weld to do. It was very contaminated, and this piece that I took off was what was contaminated, and you can see this line here. They actually spray painted this with silver paint. So this bead here was really hard to get clean. And that's exactly where I welded it on, so you can see how shitty that is because it was contaminated, very contaminated, hard to get clean. And this piece that I welded on actually had 2 different layers on it because it was part of the original flat of the radiator, and then there was the pipe. So there was actually a little gap in between there, in between the 2 pieces that had collected some coolant residue and stuff in there that you couldn't really get clean. So it was pulling the shit out of the in between the 2 pieces of metal and little bits of the paint and stuff on there. So it looks okay, I guess now. Like, I mean, it doesn't look okay, it looks terrible, but it doesn't look black like this, like all the little black specks. because I brushed it off. But here, same thing, was all contaminated. But then once I got back down onto the bottom side, it actually cleaned up in all the same settings, but it actually cleaned up and it was nice and shiny, clean, no contamination. But I was running it on this clean spot, no paint, and it was just a fresh piece from this that I could actually clean. So difficult weld, very frustrating. I hope it doesn't leak. If not, I'm just gonna fill it with water. And then if it leaks, I'll just probably pull it back apart and see what it does and keep boogering over it until it doesn't leak. And then this part I was kind of sketched out on because I didn't want the arc to like wander and then zip a hole in one of these little guys. So that was kind of tricky, staying away from that. So a little bit of a difficult, challenging weld there. So time to move on. I think that one's done. So I'm gonna move on to this and try to cap this thing. But you can see it's all painted. I don't know why they painted this silver. It's just really kind of dumb. I don't know why. So what I'm probably gonna do is cut a little piece of plate, 3/16 plate, and maybe cap it off. Let's try that. All right, so I'm just gonna go with this cap here. Basically, I just cut a 3/16 plate circle, and then I bent the little tab on the outside of the bead. Basically, just bent the whole bead out, and then set the circle inside there, and then hammered it back over with a hammer. So it would honestly, probably if I smacked it enough, it would probably seal pretty decent just like this. But I'm gonna go around with the welder and clean it up, and we'll be happy with that. So this is kind of nice. I might be able to use this to like run my steam vent line too, or something like that, if I wanted to tap that, but or overflow or whatever. But it's there.
Out this wicked plan.
Alrighty guys, so that is about it for this video. I did get this all done, welded up. I was able to use the factory VQ or whatever. I don't think it's not factory, obviously it's Mishimoto, but this came on the VQ from the radiator. I think it was the top one, and just went schwink right over into the engine. But this one is capped now. Did weld this thing on, and then I also did run the lower heater hose. So the bottom hose is a factory GM, like Silverado top hose, and I usually run the top hose on the bottom. I have that on my truck, and I did it originally on this as the lower hose. It's just a little bit tough to stretch it over the water neck there, but it fits on the bottom. So I was able to use the bends to get it to bend around the intercooler piping, and then back down over here where I connected it to the copper pipe and the other Mishimoto. This was actually the upper hose. So chopped that up, hooked it up to the copper pipe. It goes around both of the intercooler pipes and then down into the bottom of the radiator. So that's where I'm at there. Just have to clamp it all up and fill it with water, check it for leaks, but I should be able to run it now. and check the coolant temp and all that stuff. Make sure it's all fine, and then we're all good to go. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.